Muhammad didn't return Abu in accordance with the treaty.
Tabari. Abu Basir went out with his companions. When they stopped to rest, he asked one of them, "Is this sword of yours sharp?" "Yes," he replied. "May I look at it?" Basir asked. "If you wish." Basir unsheathed the sword, attacked the man, and killed him. The other Muslim ran back to the messenger, saying, "Your companion has killed my friend." While the man was still there, Abu Basir appeared girded with the sword. He halted before Muhammad and said, "Messenger, your obligation has been discharged." The Prophet said, "Woe to his mother, the kindler of war's fire."
Not returning Abu Basir to Mecca was Muhammad's first violation of the Hudaybiyah Treaty. Not condemning the murder and paying restitution was the second breach.
Ishaq and Tabari. Abu Jandal, Suhail's son, escaped and joined Abu Basir. Nearly 70 Muslim men gathered around them, and they harassed the Quraysh. Whenever they heard of a Meccan caravan setting out for Syria, they intercepted it and killed everyone they could get a hold of. They tore every caravan to pieces and took the goods. The Quraysh, therefore, sent to the Prophet, imploring him for the sake of Allah and the bond of kinship to send word to them.
Not returning Suhail's son was the third Muslim violation. Harassing the Quraysh was the fourth. Raiding caravans was the fifth. Killing and stealing were the sixth and seventh violations of the Hudaybiyah Treaty.
Tabari. When word of how Abu Basir had killed his companion reached Suhail, he leaned back against the Kaaba and said, "I will not move until they pay blood money for this man." By Allah, a Quraysh man said, "They will never pay." Tabari. On that day, Umar divorced 2 women who had been his wives in polytheism. Thus he forbade them to send the women back, but commanded them to return the bride price. Then Mu'ayt emigrated to the messenger. Her brother went to the Prophet and asked him to return her to them according to the treaty of Hudaybiyah, but he did not do so. Allah rejected it.
Not only were these the 8th and 9th Muslim violations, there hasn't been a single breach attributed to the Meccans. So we must ask ourselves, why were these abuses chronicled in the Hadith? Did the Muslim sages believe that their prophet condoned deception, treachery, murder, thievery, and terror? Did they record these things so that Muslims might behave in like manner? Then, with his natives still restless, Muhammad breached the treaty a 10th time.
Tabari. According to Waqidi, in this month the messenger sent out Ukasha with 40 men to Ghamr. He traveled quickly, but the enemy became aware and fled. He sent out scouts, and they captured a spy who guided them to some of their cattle. They took 200 head back to Medina.
Once a pirate, always a pirate. If you bet in favor of Muhammad abstaining from terror for 10 days, you lost, as did the world. Earning a living and actually producing something of value was beyond the first Muslims' capability. They stole everything and produced nothing. Muhammad and his companions became blood-sucking parasites. However, they weren't particularly good parasites.
Tabari. The messengers sent out Mohammad Maslamah with 10 men. The enemy lay in wait for them until he and his companions went to sleep. Before they suspected anything, the Muslims were killed. Muhammad escaped, wounded. Tabari. In this year, according to Waqidi, the messenger dispatched the raiding party of Abu Ubaydah with 40 men. They traveled through the night on foot and reached Kasa just before dawn. They raided the inhabitants, who escaped them by fleeing to the mountains. They took cattle, old clothes, and a man.
Muhammad's hitmen were a less civil version of Hitler's SS. Moving on to the next hadith in this religious book, we find Tabari documenting the following.
In this year, a raiding party led by Zayd went to Jamum. He captured a Muzena woman named Halima. She guided them to an encampment of the Banu Sulaim, where they captured cattle, sheep, and prisoners. Among the captives was Halima's husband. When Zayd brought back what he had taken, the Prophet granted the woman her husband and their freedom.
This wasn't compassionate terrorism. Muhammad liked her because she, like him, had betrayed and plundered her kin.
Tabari. In this year, a raiding party led by Zayd went to Al-Is. During it, Abu Ab's property was taken. Tabari. A 15-man raiding party led by Zayd went to Taref against the Banu Thalab. The Bedouins fled, fearing that Allah's messenger had sent out against them. Zayd took 20 camels from their herds. He was away 4 nights.
In the midst of all of this fundamental Islamic terrorism, I want to insert a friendly reminder. I have not taken these raids out of context. I have not skipped over the religious references in an effort to slander Muhammad or disgrace Islam. There has been nothing religious, not a word. Islam, as chronicled in the Islamic Hadith, is a terrorist manifesto, nothing more.
Tabari. In this year, Umar married Jamilah. She bore him Asim. Then Umar divorced her. Yazid married her after him. She bore him Abd al-Rahman,
A son named after the first pagan god of the Quran. Perhaps that's religious.
Tabari. In this year, a raiding party led by Abd al-Rahman bin Auf went to Dumat. The messenger said to him, "If they obey you, marry the king's daughter." Tabari. In this year, a raiding party led by Ali went to Fadak with 100 men against a clan of Banu Sad. This was because the Prophet had received information that a force of theirs intended to aid the Jews of Khaybar. Ali traveled toward them by night and lay in wait during the day. He captured a spy who confessed to them that he had been sent to Khaybar to offer the people aid on condition that they would give them the date harvest of Khaybar.
This is the 17th Muslim violation of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. In each raid, Muhammad's militants were the aggressors. They have not been depicted defending themselves as Islamic apologists claim. They were heartless thugs doing what lost souls do, murdering and plundering. Even now, this township's only crime was trying to offer aid to the Jewish families Muslims had banished from their homes in Yathrib.
Tabari. A raiding party led by Zayd against in the
supposedly holy
month of Ramadan. During it, suffered a cruel death. Zayd tied her legs with a rope and then tied her between 2 camels until they split her in 2. She was a very old woman.
If Islam gets any more peaceful, this book is going to start bleeding.
Tabari. Story is as follows. Allah's messenger sent Zayd to Wadi Qura, where he encountered the Banu Fazarah. Some of his companions were killed, and Zayd was carried away wounded. Ward was sent by the Banu Badar. When Zayd returned, he vowed that no washing should touch his head until he had raided the Fazarah. After he recovered, Muhammad sent him with an army against the Fazarah settlement. He met them in Qura and inflicted casualties upon them and took Tirfa as prisoner. He also took one of daughters and Abdallah bin Masada prisoner.
A pagan couldn't be named slave to Allah if Allah weren't the name of a pagan god. And the reason I continue to harp on this point is that if Allah were a pagan rock idol, Muhammad was a liar. Islam is without merit, and the Quran is rubbish. Jihad terrorism is nothing more than murder. It's an express ticket to hell.